And say hello to Senator Roger Marshall from Kansas. Senator, hope you're doing well today.
Todd, good afternoon. Excited to be on your show.
Senator, a lot of frustration among our listeners about the Senate vote in the wee hours of the morning. I want to get your take on what happened. Were you surprised that so many of your fellow Republicans voted for this thing?
Well, still more than half of us voted against it. I think that's really important. There was probably 4 or 5 that I wasn't counting on, but not totally shocked. Look, at the end of the day, Todd, this bill has nothing for the border, and it just prolongs a war in Ukraine, which is going nowhere, probably 1 million casualties already. It's in a quagmire. But your listeners can make a difference. They need to be contacting their own representatives and telling them how they feel about it. So hopefully this doesn't even get to the floor on the House side of things. So even that under 50%, I think this has very little chance of getting through the House.
I mean, Speaker Johnson's holding the line here. He said dead on arrival. Are there any sorts of maneuvers that they could make, the Democrats could make, that could, is there a workaround, or is it really dead on arrival?
Look, we're just weeks away from another government shutdown. So I could see the Democrats in the White House holding us hostage over that. So they may want to say, okay, throw it on your government, on your funding bill, or we're going to make it look like you shut the government down. You know, we the Republicans always get blamed for a shutdown. I would encourage, if anything, the Speaker to consider throwing H.R. 2 on this, sending it back at the Senate, and let them, make them it again. Remember the game of tag, you're it. So that's what they may want to do to be proactive.
Well, Senator, one of the things that has concerned all of us, and I'm glad you're pointing all of this out on your social media feeds, the impact that these open borders are having on the rest of the nation. And we're talking about people, and you've been laying out this story, this narrative, that illegals are killing people and harming American citizens.
Yeah, you can go to our Twitter thread at Roger Marshall MD, and we are trying to highlight as many of these crimes, and they're horrific crimes. I mean, this looks like something Hamas does in many cases, where it's rape and torture and murder by repeat offenders constantly. They've released hundreds of terrorists into our nation, 2 million people on parole. So the President of the United States has paroled 2 million people, flown them in on your taxpayer dollars, given them a work visa with minimal vetting. So all across the country, we're seeing more and more of these crimes committed. So at Roger Marshall MD on our Twitter feed, we're highlighting some, trying to add something to those each day, telling that story, if you will.
We were playing some audio of a news report out of the Boston area where these rich liberals are starting to house the illegals. The governor's telling citizens to house illegals in their private residences. I just can't imagine who in the world would do something like that, Senator, because these individuals have not been vetted. We don't know who these people are.
Yeah, so we talked about the 2 million parolees. We've also got probably close to 2 million gotaways.
Wow.
So gotaways are people that the Border Patrol saw disappearing into the night but did not get to vet them. Remember, we can only really handle 1,000 people a day maximum at the border. Many days we're having 10,000 people cross the border every day. So you have a situation like you're describing, the housing issue. How about the VA taking care of these folks too? So the president wants the VA to start taking care of these illegal aliens as well, when already under Joe Biden, our waiting lists, our waiting times for my veterans are growing and growing, as once again, there's minimal accountability in our VA system. You can't make this stuff up, Todd. It's just mind-boggling.
Well, it's a great point. I know Senator Tuberville from Alabama raising those concerns that resources meant for veterans are actually being used to take care of illegals now. I mean, even our veterans are being shoved aside. Senator, what is going on here?
Yeah, well, we have a complete usurpation of the federal government. Joe Biden constantly after our constitutional rights. He has an open border. Inflation is destroying the economy from the middle out and the bottom up. We have wars all around the world now. You know how many wars started under President Trump? The answer is zero, of course. So Joe Biden has given us war through weakness. So the world is imploding on Joe Biden, his liberal socialist policies that have come to fruition exactly as we predicted would happen.
They're in Kansas. Are you guys seeing the influx of illegals in your state as well?
Absolutely, Todd. We're going to be doing human trafficking roundtables across the state this week when I'm back. While I'm back here, I just landed here earlier today, just highlighting the ICE officers, the sheriff, all those officers are reaching out to us saying we're seeing human trafficking exploding. And of course, the drug trafficking has been going on for several years now. We lose a Kansan every day to fentanyl poisoning. We're using Narcan a dozen times every day. And as my dad, the police chief, taught me, whatever there's drugs, there's going to be crime following it as well. So we're seeing an explosion of crime, an explosion of the human trafficking and the sex trafficking as well. Kansas sits at the intersection of several major interstate highway systems. So unfortunately, the cartel is alive and well here. The cartel has set up stations across the state of Kansas to run their drug trafficking and human trafficking rings.
Wow. All right. Well, Senator, we appreciate the update here. And folks, I would encourage you to check out the Senator's X feed, Roger Marshall, MD, as he and his team continue to expose the dangers that are out there at the hands of these illegals. Senator, thank you again.